He chased a 10-year-old girl through the streets, convinced she stole his wallet. But what she was really running from hit him harder than anything inside it. Colton Reeves never planned to chase anyone that morning. He had flown into Phoenix, Arizona for a quick meeting, grabbed a late breakfast at a small spot near Roosevelt Row, and stepped out with his phone in one hand and a to-go cup in the other. Nothing dramatic, nothing crazy, just another day for a man who usually had 3 assistants tracking his schedule down to the minute. But the moment he reached the sidewalk, talking to himself about the call he needed to make, something felt off. His hand slid into the pocket of his blazer out of habit. Then he checked the second pocket, then the inner one. The movement became frantic, almost jerky, like his fingers were trying to prove him wrong. The wallet wasn't there. He patted himself again, this time faster. His breath shortened. People around him were walking past, minding their business, and he stood in the middle of the walkway like someone unplugged his mind. "Come on, no, he muttered, pulling at his pockets again as if the wallet might magically fall into his hand. A tourist couple stepped around him. A man carrying a folded scooter muttered a quick apology as he brushed by. Colton wasn't even looking at them. The only thing bouncing around in his head was the fact that losing that wallet wasn't just annoying, it was a security nightmare. Cards, IDs, 2 access keys, and even a tiny drive he kept tucked in there. Everything mattered. He turned back toward the cafe, ready to retrace his steps, when something in the corner of his eye made him freeze. A kid, small frame, fast steps. Something pressed tight against her chest with both arms. She looked maybe 10, maybe slightly younger, wearing a faded purple hoodie much too big for her and sneakers that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, and she moved like she'd done this run before, weaving between people, staying close to the edges of the walkway, and Colton's brain made a snap assumption. "That's her," he whispered under his breath, already taking a step forward. "She has it." His pulse spiked. He wasn't used to being stolen from. In fact, it had never happened. Not once. He had bodyguards for events, private drivers, systems, layers of protection. But right now, he was alone. Just a man in a blazer chasing a kid through downtown Phoenix. Hey, kid," he called out. She didn't look back. He moved faster, pushing through the flow of pedestrians. His voice sharpened. "Stop, I just want to talk to you." She turned her head for a split second. Her eyes widened, a mix of confusion and fear, like she'd just seen something she didn't expect. Then she sped up. Colton muttered, "You've got to be kidding me," and broke into a jog. His heart hammered, partly from running, partly from anger, partly from the embarrassment of knowing people were watching a grown man chase a little girl down the street. But something about the way she held the item, tight, defensive, made him sure it was his wallet. It wasn't just tucked under her arm like stolen goods. She held it like she was protecting it. Still, that didn't change his suspicion. A woman near a bus bench called out, "Sir, you okay?" Colton didn't even answer. His focus locked on the girl. "Stop running, I need that back," he shouted. She darted across the sidewalk, almost dropping the item she was clutching, then kept going. Colton felt a burn in his chest. He wasn't out of shape, but suits weren't meant for sprinting in the Arizona sun. Still, he kept going, weaving through people, dodging a man with headphones, almost colliding with a college student carrying iced coffee. "Come on, kid, just stop," he yelled again. The girl looked over her shoulder one more time, and for a second he saw the fear in her face, clearly, wide eyes, tight jaw, a kid who didn't understand why someone like him was chasing her. He didn't care, not right now. All he cared about was the wallet, and the possibility that this child had swiped it. But as she reached the crosswalk, her foot slipped for half a second. She caught herself, but the movement made something fall slightly out of her arms before she scrambled to grip it tighter. Colton saw the edge of a dark leather case, his wallet. He pushed himself harder. He felt people staring, whispering, probably judging. He didn't care. That small figure in front of him held his entire life. And he couldn't let her disappear into the crowd. He was gaining on her now. She cut right, heading toward the bus stop further down the street. He wasn't sure if she was trying to escape or find cover, but either way, he wasn't letting her slip away. His breath was shallow now, his steps heavy, his frustration growing with every second. But he kept running, because he had to know. But he didn't realize that what he was running toward wasn't a thief. It was the truth that would flip everything upside down. Colton didn't even feel the heat rising off the pavement anymore. All he saw was that small figure darting between strangers, slipping past adults twice her size, like it was second nature. She wasn't sprinting wildly like a troublemaker trying to get away. No, she moved with purpose, quick, sharp turns, staying close to the walls, eyes scanning everything around her. This wasn't a kid running just to run. She was trying to avoid something. "Kid, stop, please," Colton called out again, but his voice blended into street noise. Bus engines, conversations, the rush of traffic rolling past the intersection. The girl kept going. A man holding a stack of newspapers stepped aside just in time as she brushed past him. He frowned at her, then at Colton, barreling after her, and shook his head like he'd just watched something he didn't believe. Colton muttered under his breath, "Why won't she just stop?" His legs were starting to feel heavy. He wasn't built for sprints like this. Up ahead, the girl turned sharply into a narrower sidewalk, wedged between a taco stand and a souvenir shop. It was crowded, tight walkway, small tables, folding signs, cardboard boxes. She slid through them like she'd mapped the whole route an hour ago. Colton didn't have her size or her speed. He nearly tripped on a plastic crate. "Sorry. Excuse me. Coming through," he huffed as he pushed past a couple examining bracelets on a display. The woman looked after him and whispered loudly enough for him to hear, "Why is he chasing a child?" He winced. This was getting worse by the second. The girl looked back again. Not for long, just enough to check how close he was. Her ponytail bounced. Her breath came out in quick bursts. Her shoes slapped the pavement. Her eyes weren't angry. They weren't defiant. They were scared. And for a second, just a second, that gave Colton pause. But he couldn't stop. Not now. "Hey," he called, forcing himself to pick up speed again. "Just talk to me." A vendor leaned out of his cart and shouted jokingly, "Man, you training for a marathon or what?" Colton ignored him. He was close enough now to see the worn edges of the hoodie, the way the sleeves swallowed her hands, the frayed seam on her backpack. Her sneakers were so flattened at the heel they barely had shape. She didn't look like someone who'd go around stealing wallets for fun. She looked like a kid who'd had to grow up a little too fast. But none of that mattered right this second. He needed that wallet back. She cleared the end of the narrow lane and spilled out onto a wider sidewalk, nearly colliding with a group of teenagers taking pictures by a mural. One of them stepped back and said, "Whoa, careful!" But she had already slipped past, gripping the wallet like it was something she couldn't lose. Colton came out a moment later, breathing hard, sweat forming along his collarbone. He spotted her again, cutting toward a bus pulling in at the nearby stop. Oh no, you don't," he breathed. He pushed harder, ignoring the burn in his lungs. The bus doors opened with a hiss. People began to board. The girl wasn't trying to get on. She moved around the crowd instead, toward the back of the shelter. "She's trying to hide," Colton muttered. His frustration grew sharper. His suit was sticking to his back, his patience running thin, and every step felt heavier. This was ridiculous. Him, a man worth millions, chasing a 10-year-old in old sneakers through Phoenix like this was a scene out of someone else's life. And yet, he kept going because he couldn't let his guard down, not when so much was at stake. A teenage boy stepped in front of him accidentally, and Colton had to sidestep hard, nearly losing his balance. The boy blinked. "Dude, what are you—" But Colton was already past him. He saw the girl slip behind the bus stop, head low, shoulders pulled in. She was out of breath now, too. He could hear her small breaths, even over the city noise. Her fingers clamped around the thing she carried. The exact shade of leather he recognized instantly. His wallet. "I see you," he whispered, pushing himself the last few steps. The sun beat down, shadows stretching across the pavement. A bus pulled away, leaving behind warm exhaust and a short gust of wind. Colton reached out with one hand, trying to get close enough not to startle her, but close enough that she couldn't bolt again. Just a few more steps. Just a bit more. But he didn't know that what he was about to find wasn't a runaway, but a terrified child who thought she had no other choice. Colton didn't slow down as he rounded the edge of the bus shelter. The heat sticking to his skin, the strange looks from strangers, the embarrassment settling in his stomach. None of it mattered anymore. He had eyes on her, and this time she didn't have much room to slip away. The girl stood near the back of the shelter, her back pressed to the glass panel, her arms wrapped tightly around the wallet. Her cheeks were flushed, and her breathing came fast, sharp, like she was trying to hold back tears. She couldn't have been more than 10, maybe 11. At most, Colton stepped closer, trying not to sound as out of breath as he was. "Hey," he said, raising a hand gently. "I just want to talk." The girl's grip tightened. She looked like she was ready to sprint again, even though she could barely stand still without wobbling. "You dropped this," she blurted out before he could say anything else. Her voice trembled, small and strained. "You dropped it. I didn't take it." Her words hit him harder than he expected. He blinked. "What?" She shoved the wallet forward with both hands, her arms shaking. "I was bringing it back, I swear." Colton paused mid-step. His frustration stalled. His breath slowed. His thoughts scrambled. Up close, she didn't look guilty. She looked terrified. Okay, he said softly, taking another step, hands open. "Just breathe. I'm not mad." But she flinched anyway. Behind him, more people moved through the sidewalk, weaving past the shelter. A woman pushing a stroller slowed down, watching the interaction with narrowed eyes. A group of college students glanced over and whispered among themselves. Someone pulled out their phone like they expected something dramatic to happen. Colton swallowed hard. He wasn't in control of this moment. Not at all. And he hated how easily it could be misunderstood. He crouched down slightly, lowering himself so he wasn't towering over her. "What's your name?" he asked gently. The girl hesitated. Her eyes darted around as if checking whether she was safe enough to answer. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Lena." A simple name, a quiet name, not the name of a thief. Colton nodded slowly. "All right, Lena, my name is Colton." He paused. "And I believe you, but why did you run?" She looked down at her shoes, one of them nearly peeling at the sole. "Because I knew you'd think I took it." Grown-ups always think that. The sentence stung more than he expected, not because she meant to hurt him, but because she said it like she had lived it more than once. Colton ran a hand through his hair and let out a shaky breath. "Lena, I didn't mean to scare you. I just saw you running with my wallet and I wasn't stealing," she snapped suddenly, louder than before, her voice cracked. "I was taking it to the library. There's an officer there sometimes. He knows my mom. He would have given it back to you." Colton froze. A kid running for safety, not escape. A kid terrified of being blamed for something she didn't do. This wasn't the scene he thought it was, not even close. He softened his tone even more. "Okay, I understand, and I appreciate you wanting to get it somewhere safe." He extended a hand slightly. "Can I have it back now?" Lena studied him for several seconds, her breathing still shaky. Then she slowly stepped forward and placed the wallet in his hand. Colton didn't move right away. He didn't flip it open or check if anything was missing. He just looked at her. She stood stiff, arms wrapped protectively around her stomach, like she expected him to yell at her or accuse her anyway. He didn't. Instead, he said quietly, "Thank you." Her eyes lifted, confused. "For real," he added. "You didn't have to pick it up. You didn't have to try to find help. You could have walked away." She didn't say anything, but he saw something in her face shift. Just a little. Not trust yet, but less fear. Behind them, the sounds of conversations, buses, cars and footsteps blended together, reminding him they were in public, exposed, on display. He straightened up and glanced around. People were still watching. A few looked relieved nothing terrible had happened. Others looked disappointed there wasn't more drama. He exhaled slowly. "Lena," he said, turning back to her, "can we go somewhere with some shade? You look like you're about to fall over." She shrugged weakly. "I'm fine." "You're not," he said gently. "And neither am I." For the first time, a tiny hint of a smile flickered on her face. Just for a second, he gestured toward a small seating area near the bus shelter. "Come on, let's just sit for a minute." Lena looked at him, at the path behind them, at the people still eyeing them. And then she nodded, just slightly, and the two of them walked toward the bench. But Colton had no idea that sitting down was only the start, because what she was about to reveal next would leave him questioning everything he thought he knew about her. Colton let out a slow breath as he eased himself onto the bench. Lena stayed standing at first. shifting her weight from one foot to the other, glancing around like she expected someone to jump out and accuse her all over again. Her hands fidgeted with the loose threads on her hoodie sleeve. Every sign pointed to a kid carrying far too much on her shoulders. "Sit if you want," he said calmly. "You don't have to, but it might help you catch your breath." Lena hesitated, then inched closer and sat down at the far end of the bench, leaving a full 3 feet of space between them. She kept her knees together, hands tight in her lap, like she didn't want to take up too much room. Colton watched her for a moment, not talking, not pushing. He was good at reading people, investors, partners, negotiators, but this was different. She wasn't someone trying to gain something. She wasn't playing a role or pretending she was just scared. He cleared his throat. "Look, I owe you an apology." Her head snapped up. "Why?" "For chasing you like that," he said. "I shouldn't have scared you." She blinked fast, as if she wasn't used to hearing an adult admit fault. "I thought you were going to call someone on me." He shook his head. "No, I just panicked. That wallet has important stuff inside." "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I picked it up." She said it so simply, so plainly, that it made him feel ridiculous for the chase, the shouting, the assumptions. Colton leaned back. "Can you tell me what happened? From your side?" Lena's foot tapped lightly against the concrete. She stared straight ahead, watching a man lock up his bike nearby. "You dropped it when you were talking on your phone," she began. "I saw it fall. I said, 'Sir,' but you didn't hear me. Then people walked over it, and I didn't want it to get stepped on." Colton cringed slightly. She had tried calling out to him. He'd been too distracted. "So I picked it up," she continued. "But when you turned around, you looked mad. I thought you'd think I took it. Grown-ups always think the worst." He felt a pinch in his chest. "Has that happened to you before?" Lena shrugged one shoulder. "Sometimes teachers, sometimes store people, sometimes neighbors." He looked at her, really looked this time. This wasn't a kid acting guilty. This was a kid conditioned to expect the world to assume the worst about her. He rubbed his thumb along the edge of his wallet. "I'm sorry, Lena. Truly. That should never happen." She didn't respond, but the tension in her shoulders loosened just a bit. A bus pulled up in front of them, releasing a wave of hot air and the smell of old rubber. A small crowd formed to board. A pair of teenagers joked loudly. A woman with a tote bag shuffled past the bench, glanced at Colton, then at Lena, then kept walking. Colton leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Can I ask something else?" Lena looked wary. "Like what?" "Why the library, of all places?" She exhaled, long and shaky. "There's an officer there sometimes, Officer Dunn. He helps kids who get in trouble for stuff they didn't do. My mom knows him. He's nice." Colton raised his brows. "So you were going to give him the wallet?" She nodded. "He would have known what to do. And he wouldn't have yelled at me or called people on me." Her voice cracked at the end. Colton's chest tightened hard. This child didn't run because she was guilty. She ran because she needed protection, and that realization sat heavy in his gut. He looked at her small hands, the dirt under her nails, the slight fraying on her backpack, signs of a life that hadn't handed her many breaks. "You must have been scared," he said softly. "I wasn't scared of you," she replied. "I was scared of what you might do." That sentence sat between them like a weight. He nodded slowly. "I understand." For a moment, neither spoke. The sounds of the city filled the gap. People laughing, horns in the distance, a skateboard rolling by. Then Lena turned her head slightly. "Are you going to tell my mom?" He blinked. "Do you want me to?" "No," she whispered. "She's already stressed." Colton hesitated. "Because of money stuff?" Lena shrugged again. Not an answer, but definitely an answer. He leaned back, quiet, thoughtful. This kid didn't ask for help, didn't expect kindness, didn't think adults would believe her, and she wasn't wrong to feel that way. He rubbed his hands together, trying to figure out the right words, the right tone. He didn't want to make her feel smaller than she already did. "Lena, I'm not mad at you," he said. "I never should have assumed anything." She opened her mouth, hesitated, then whispered, "I didn't want you to lose your stuff. I was trying to help." A lump formed in his throat. She hadn't just done the right thing. She'd done more than most adults would bother to do. He stared down at the wallet in his hands. And for the first time since his morning began, he wasn't thinking about what was inside it. He was thinking about the girl beside him. But what he didn't know yet was that this moment, this tiny slice of time at a bus stop, was only the surface. Because Lena's situation ran deeper than a lost wallet, and the truth waiting behind it would change everything for him. Colton sat there with the wallet resting loosely in his hands, but the weight he felt wasn't from the leather. It came from everything Lena wasn't saying. The gaps in her sentences, the hesitations, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder like someone might appear and blame her for something else. He shifted slightly on the bench. "Lena, can I ask you something? And you can say no if you want." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved across the sidewalk, tracing the tiles like she was counting them. Finally, she nodded. "Why were you out here alone?" Her fingers stopped fidgeting. Her shoulders rose a little, then fell. "My mom's working," she said quietly. "At this hour." "She works all kinds of hours," Lena replied. "She cleans rooms at a hotel near the airport. Sometimes morning, sometimes late, sometimes both." He swallowed. "And you're on your own during that?" Another shrug, her way of not revealing too much. "I know how to take care of myself." No 10-year-old should have to say that Colton opened the wallet in his hands, not to check the contents, but almost as a reflex. Something familiar to ground him. Everything seemed untouched. Cards, keys, that tiny drive, even the spare cash. He looked up. "You didn't take anything." Lena frowned. "Why would I? I told you." "I know," he said quickly, lifting a hand. "I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted to say, I see that you were honest." She watched him for a moment, then leaned back slowly, her feet barely touching the ground as they swung lightly under the bench. "My mom says that doing the right thing is harder when people think you're lying," she murmured. Colton let that sit in the air. She wasn't trying to guilt trip him. She was stating her reality, plain and simple. He cleared his throat. "So, you were going to the library to find that officer?" Lena nodded. "He helps people. He helped my mom once when someone said she broke a window at work." She paused. "She didn't." "What happened?" "He believed her," Lena said with a tiny smile. "He checked the cameras. He told the manager it wasn't her." Colton felt a small ache in his chest. How many people doubted this family? How many times had they been forced to defend themselves? "You trust him," Colton said. Lena nodded again. "He listens." Something in her tone told him adults didn't listen to her often. A loud honk burst from the street, making Lena jump a little, Colton noticed, but didn't call attention to it. He let a few seconds pass. "What were you planning to do after dropping off the wallet?" he asked gently. "Go home," she replied, "and finish my worksheets." "For school?" "Yeah." "Do you like school?" She hesitated. "Sometimes." "What makes it hard?" "People," she said softly. "Some of them think they know everything about you because of stuff." Colton knew that feeling in a different way. People saw his money before they saw him. People saw her circumstances before they saw her, and both were wrong. He took a slow breath. "Lena, I'm really sorry you've had to deal with so much. You shouldn't have to." She shrugged again, but this time her voice cracked slightly. "It's normal." He shook his head. "No, it shouldn't be." Her eyes softened a little. A small part of her was letting her guard down. Then she glanced at the wallet in his hands. "You have a lot of important stuff in there." "I do." "You must be someone who does big things." Colton let out a small laugh. "Some people think so." "What do you do?" she asked. He hesitated, not because he didn't want to answer, but because he wasn't sure how to say it without sounding like he was bragging. "I run a company," he said finally. "I work with a lot of tech and infrastructure stuff. It's boring to most people." She tilted her head, like, "Computers?" "Sometimes." "Do you make a lot of money?" He blinked. Kids didn't dance around questions. "I do," he admitted. Her eyes drifted to her worn-out shoes, then back to the ground. She didn't say anything, but he could see the thoughts rolling through her mind. Thoughts kids her age shouldn't have to carry. After a moment, she asked quietly, "Is that why you were so scared? Because losing your wallet could mess up your money stuff?" Colton took a long breath. "Partly. But it wasn't about the money. It was everything inside it, things I can't replace easily. What kind of things? Passes, cards, keys, and a little drive that has work files on it. Lena listened like every detail mattered. So you were scared? Yes, he said, and I reacted too fast because of that. Adults get scared? She asked with genuine surprise. He smiled softly. More often than you think. She looked ahead again, kicking her feet slightly. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. I was scared too. Of me? Not you, she said quickly. Just what could happen? Kids don't get believed when stuff like this happens. He felt that sentence in his bones. He leaned back slowly, letting the shade cool his face. I believe you. Lena looked at him for the first time without flinching. Really? Really, he said. You were doing something kind, and I didn't see that at first. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Behind them, a light breeze passed through, carrying faint music from a shop down the street. Someone laughed nearby. A cyclist whizzed past the bus shelter. The world kept moving, but something between them had shifted. Lena looked down at her hands again. My mom says people see what they want to see. Colton exhaled. She's right. And today, I saw the wrong thing. Lena didn't answer, but she didn't disagree either. Then she said something he didn't expect. You were running really fast. He let out a short laugh. I'm paying for it now. You almost tripped over that box. Oh, don't remind me. Her shoulders relaxed just a little. The first sign that maybe she didn't feel like she needed to run anymore, but Colton didn't realize her story wasn't finished. Not even close. Because the next thing she revealed would make everything suddenly click together. Lena sat quietly for a moment after that last sentence, her feet tapping lightly against the bench. She stared ahead at the street, then down at her hands, then back toward the direction she had come from. Something was still sitting heavy on her mind. Colton could see it in the way her eyebrows kept pinching together. You okay? He asked gently. She didn't answer at first. Instead, she reached into the pocket of her hoodie and pulled out a folded piece of paper, creased so many times it looked like it had lived there for months. She held it out to him slowly. This is why I was going to the library anyway, before I even found your wallet. Colton unfolded it carefully. It was a notice from her school, something about attendance issues and a recommendation for parent contact. At the bottom, a handwritten note said, "Please meet with Officer Dunn at the community room for follow-up." Colton blinked. This is from today? She nodded. I was supposed to meet him before lunch, but the papers got dropped off late at the office, so I was already on my way home. And the meeting is at the library? Yeah. Colton folded the paper back gently and handed it to her. Why does the school want to talk about attendance? She hesitated. I miss days sometimes. Because you're sick? No, because I have to help at home. He didn't want to pry into something she wasn't ready to talk about. But the way she clenched the paper before stuffing it back into her pocket told him there was more to it, more than a kid should be juggling. She finally looked up. I still need to go, though, even if I'm late. Colton nodded. Okay, want me to walk with you? Her eyebrows rose. Why? Because I feel responsible for delaying you, he said simply. And because I think talking to that officer is important for you. Lena stared at him for a few seconds, unsure whether to trust the offer. You don't have to, she whispered. I want to, he replied. She looked down at the sidewalk again. It's not far. Then it won't take long, he said. She finally gave a tiny nod. They stood from the bench and began walking side by side, though she still kept a slight distance between them. The sun was high now, casting sharp shadows beneath the palm trees lining the street. Cars hummed past. People crossed in clusters. A skateboard clacked over a crack in the pavement. Lena kept her hands tucked into her sleeves. You're not scared I'll run again? No, Colton said with a soft smile. You were never running from me. Not really. Her eyes flicked up, unsure how to respond. She wasn't used to hearing adults speak to her like that. They walked through the sidewalk as the crowds thinned. A few blocks down, the library came into view. A tall building with large windows. Kids' posters taped unevenly across the front door. A mural covered the side wall, showing bright colors and cartoon books stacked like skyscrapers. Lena's pace slowed a little as they got closer. Colton noticed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she said automatically. "Lena," he murmured. She bit her lip. "I don't want him to think I'm in trouble. I already got the notice, and now I'm late. And if he asks where I was, I don't know if he'll believe me." Colton stopped walking. "Listen to me," he said, lowering his tone. "You brought back a wallet that wasn't yours. You were headed to a safe place, and you're trying to meet with someone who helps you. That tells me you're doing the right thing." She looked at him, searching his face. "That's what he's going to see too," he added. Lena didn't move for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. They reached the entrance. Colton held the door open for her, but Lena hesitated again, glancing up at him. "Do you want to come in with me?" she asked. He swallowed. She asked the question like she was asking a huge favor, not something small, like she didn't get to rely on people often. "If you want me to," he said. "I do," she whispered. So he followed her inside. The air was cool, carrying that familiar mix of books, carpet, and faint cleaning supplies. A librarian at the front desk gave them a polite smile. Kids whispered at the computers. A volunteer rearranged a shelf of picture books. Lena led the way toward the community room at the back. Colton stayed a few steps behind her. He wasn't sure why he felt protective already. Maybe it was the way she kept glancing back to make sure he was still there. Or maybe it was the fear in her eyes that she tried so hard to hide. When they reached the room, Lena paused at the door, took a small breath, and stepped inside. A man in a polo shirt looked up from a table, a badge clipped to his collar. "Lena?" he said, surprised. "You made it." She nodded, then stepped slightly to the side, revealing Colton behind her. Officer Dunn's eyebrows lifted. "And you brought a friend?" Colton raised a hand lightly. "Long story." "It is," Lena echoed quietly. Officer Dunn looked between them for a moment, then pulled out a chair. "All right then, let's hear it." Colton sat down beside her, but he didn't know that what Lena was about to admit, right here in this quiet room, was the part she'd been too scared to say out loud until now, and it would hit him harder than anything she'd told him before. The community room was quiet, almost too quiet. The kind of stillness that made every rustle of paper, every shift in the chair, sound louder than it should. Lena sat stiffly beside Colton, her fingers twisted together, her eyes aimed at the table like she didn't trust herself to look anywhere else. Officer Dunn leaned forward with a calm expression, elbows resting on his knees. "I'm glad you came, Lena. I know it's been a rough week." She swallowed hard. "I didn't skip on purpose." "I know," he said gently. "That's why I wanted to talk to you. I want to understand what's going on." Then he glanced at Colton. "And I'm guessing he's here because he's part of that story somehow?" Colton gave a small nod. "Very recently, yes." Lena let out a shaky breath. "I found his wallet on the street, and everything got messed up." Officer Dunn raised his brows slightly. "Messed up how?" "I tried to bring it here," she said quickly, "but he thought I took it. He chased me a lot." Colton rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed all over again. "I completely misread the situation." The officer nodded slowly. "All right, I trust her version. She wouldn't lie about that." Lena's shoulders relaxed a little. "But," Officer Dunn continued, turning back to her, "that still leaves the school notice. They've been calling your mom for days." Lena went utterly still. Colton watched her face carefully. The way her jaw tightened, the way her eyes darted to the door as if she considered running again, the way her shoulders drew in like she was bracing for impact. Officer Dunn softened his tone. "Lena, your mom isn't in trouble. You aren't either. I just want to help, but I need to know what's going on at home." Lena blinked hard, and her voice cracked when she finally spoke. "My mom doesn't know about the notices." He frowned. "Why not?" She doesn't check the school messages all the time," Lena whispered. "And when she works late, she sleeps through the morning. She's tired all the time, and I don't want to make things harder for her." Colton felt something twist in his chest. Officer Dunn nodded thoughtfully. "Is that why you're missing days?" Lena hesitated. Then the truth slipped out like she'd been holding it behind her teeth for weeks. "Sometimes I stay home to watch my baby brother." Colton's eyes widened. The officer's expression softened even further. "Your brother?" Officer Dunn asked. "He's one," she murmured. And my mom can't always get someone to watch him. So I stay home, I feed him, I change him, I try to keep him quiet so she can sleep a little before work. Colton stared at her, stunned. A 10-year-old doing the work of an entire caretaker. Lena, he said quietly. She kept her eyes down. I don't want him to cry all day, and Mom says she's doing everything she can. She really is. I know she is, the officer said gently. But you shouldn't have to carry all of that. She pressed her lips together, fighting tears. If I tell her the school is mad, she might lose hours, and we need those hours. We barely have enough now. Colton's throat tightened, hard. This wasn't a kid making excuses. This was a kid trying to hold together a situation too big for her to handle. Lena, he said slowly, does your mom know you're helping this much? No, she whispered. She'd feel bad. Officer Dunn leaned forward. You know, keeping all of this inside isn't good for you, right? And it's not safe. If something happened to the baby, I'd take care of it, she said quickly. I always do. Her voice cracked right in the middle, betraying the weight behind it. Colton felt something inside him shift. A true, deep ache he hadn't expected. He'd spent his morning thinking his biggest problem was a missing wallet. This little girl had spent her morning managing responsibilities that would overwhelm someone 10 times her age. Officer Dunn took a breath. Lena, I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to help, and I need to talk to your mom so we can figure out a plan. Lena's head shot up, panic flashing in her eyes. No, please don't. She'll think I made things worse. She's already worried about losing her job. The officer shook his head. I'm not calling her boss. I'm not reporting anyone. I just want her to know what's going on so she's not blindsided. Lena looked at Colton suddenly, as if hoping he would stop it somehow. He leaned closer. He's not trying to make trouble, Lena. He's trying to make things easier for you. She shook her head fast. Nothing is easy. He hated how true that sounded coming from someone so young. Officer Dunn waited a moment, then spoke gently. Lena, tell me something. When you were running with his wallet, were you scared because of him? Or because you thought someone else might see you holding it and jump to the wrong idea? Her eyes filled instantly, and that was answer enough. Officer Dunn's jaw tightened with empathy. I'm sorry you've had to feel that way. Lena wiped her nose with her sleeve. It just looked bad, and I didn't want to get blamed again. Again? Colton repeated quietly. She nodded. A few months ago at the grocery store, someone thought I took a pack of gum. I didn't. It was in my pocket from the day before, but they didn't believe me. Colton clenched his jaw. This kid had been carrying fear as if it were part of her daily routine. Officer Dunn nodded slowly. That explains a lot. Lena sniffed and pulled her hoodie sleeves over her knuckles like armor. I wasn't trying to run away forever. I just wanted to get to the library before something went wrong. You were trying to do the right thing, Colton said. Lena lifted her head. I was trying not to get in trouble. Colton looked at her, seeing more clearly than ever the kind of life she lived. A life built around avoiding misunderstanding, avoiding blame, avoiding consequences she didn't deserve. He exhaled slowly. Officer Dunn looked between them. I think we can work through this, but we need to make a plan to help you and your mom. You shouldn't be carrying all this alone. Lena blinked rapidly again, the tears winning this time. I just don't want to mess anything up. Colton felt the sting behind his eyes, that rare, sharp kind of emotion he didn't experience often. You didn't mess anything up, he said softly. You were trying to help. You tried harder than most adults would. Lena wiped at her eyes again, shoulders trembling. Officer Dunn leaned back, sighing quietly. We'll figure it out, Lena. I won't leave you and your family hanging. Colton looked at her and made a decision without saying it out loud. He didn't know how yet, or what it would look like, but he wasn't walking away from this child's life the second he got his wallet back. She deserved better than the weight she was carrying, but neither of them knew that the next part, the toughest conversation of all, was coming fast. And once the truth reached her mom, everything would shift in ways none of them expected. Officer Dunn stood up from his chair, hands resting lightly on his hips as he thought. The air in the room felt different now, heavier but clearer. Lena wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, embarrassed she'd cried in front of two adults she barely knew. Colton angled himself toward her, lowering his voice. Hey, none of this is your fault. You've been doing more than anyone your age should ever have to. She shook her head. If I tell my mom everything, she'll feel bad. She already works so much, and I don't want her to think I can't help. You are helping, Colton said gently, but you shouldn't be doing it alone. Before Lena could answer, there was a soft knock on the door. Officer Dunn turned. That must be her. Lena's whole body tensed, like every fear she'd been carrying jumped straight to the surface. She pressed her hands together so tightly, her knuckles turned white. The officer opened the door, and a woman stepped inside. Mid-30s, hair pulled into a loose bun, uniform shirt from the hotel still on, exhaustion written all over her face. She had a badge clipped to her collar and keys hanging from a lanyard. Her eyes instantly locked on Lena. Ilya? She breathed out, stepping forward. Are you okay? Lena's eyes widened. Mom, I didn't mean... Her mother dropped to her knees, hands on Lena's shoulders. Why didn't you tell me you had a meeting today? I didn't want you to worry, Lena whispered. You're always tired. Her mother closed her eyes, breathing in slowly, then pulled Lena into a long, trembling hug. Baby, I'm tired because I'm trying to keep us afloat, not because you're a problem. Officer Dunn approached with a soft tone. Ma'am, nobody's in trouble. We just want to make sure Lena feels supported. She nodded, brushing tears from her daughter's cheeks. I thought everything was fine at school. I didn't know she was missing days again. Lena stiffened. I didn't want you to get in trouble at work. They already cut your hours last time. Her mom froze, hurt flickering in her face. You've been staying home because of me? Lena nodded, staring at the floor. Colton felt something twist inside him again. The moment was raw. A little girl desperate to protect her mother, and a mother desperate to hold everything together. Her mom pulled her in closer. You can't take care of everything by yourself. That's not your job. That's mine. But you need help, Lena whispered, and I can help. Yes, her mom said softly, brushing Lena's hair back. But not like this. Not at the cost of your school or your childhood. Colton cleared his throat gently. She told us how much she worries about making things harder for you. Her mom looked up at him, as if noticing him for the first time. And you are? He offered a small smile. The guy who thought your daughter stole his wallet, which she absolutely did not. Lena's mother looked horrified. Oh no, Ilya. It's okay, Mom, Lena said quickly. He knows I was trying to return it. I do, Colton said. And she was going to bring it here, to do the right thing. Her mother's eyes softened. That sounds like her. Officer Dunn stepped in. I think we can find a way to support this family. There are programs, after-school resources, even childcare options. Lena's mom sighed, the weight of everything finally cracking through her voice. I've been trying to sort it out, but nothing has lined up yet. That was the moment Colton spoke without fully thinking, but with complete sincerity. Maybe I can help. Lena and her mother looked at him, startled. He raised his hands, not wanting to overwhelm them. Not in a big, intimidating way. I can cover the cost of childcare for a while or help find a reliable sitter, or whatever you're comfortable with. Her mother blinked at him, unsure if she heard correctly. Sir, that's too much. You don't even know us. I know your daughter picked up a stranger's wallet and did everything in her power to return it, Colton said. I know she's carrying weight no child should carry, and I know you're doing everything you can with what you have. You don't need to struggle alone. Silence hung in the air. Lena's mother pressed a hand to her mouth, her eyes filling. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, he replied softly. Just let someone help you the way Lena was trying to help me. Officer Dunn nodded approvingly. It's a generous offer, and it could make a real difference. Lena watched them quietly. Mom, it's okay. He's nice. Her mother laughed through her tears. I can see that. Colton knelt slightly to be at Lena's eye level. Remember when you asked if adults get scared? We do. I was scared this morning, but you didn't run with my wallet because you're a bad kid. You ran because you've learned this world doesn't always give you the benefit of the doubt. He paused. You deserve better than that. Lena swallowed hard. Are you still mad at me? Not even a little, he said. You showed more honesty and courage today than most grown-ups." Her cheeks warmed with the smallest, shyest smile. Officer Dunn clapped his hands lightly. "All right, let's figure out a plan to help this family move forward." Lena turned to her mom cautiously. "Are you mad at me?" "No," her mom whispered, hugging her again. "I'm proud of you, but I don't want you carrying everything alone anymore." Colton stood beside them, feeling something inside him settle, a quiet understanding that sometimes the smallest moments change people the most. A lost wallet, a frightened girl, a morning he thought would be ordinary. Instead, he found a truth about compassion he didn't know he needed, and he wasn't going to forget it. Because kindness didn't fix everything, but it opened the door to something better. Sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones holding the heaviest burdens. And sometimes, doing the right thing isn't about grand gestures. It's about seeing someone clearly when the world usually looks past them. If this story moved you, share it with someone who might need a reminder that compassion still matters. And if you want more stories that hit close to the heart, make sure to follow along for the next one.